I guess in the sunscreen world, I mean, cancer is very controversial, and to say that sunscreen is bad for humans, that's a controversial statement for people to make, and it's a tricky thing. I think in the sunscreen realm, it's just important. What I've been talking about is just it's important for people to understand that there are a lot of chemicals in sunscreen that appear to be endocrine disruptors, and use with caution. Sunscreen is probably necessary for some people when they go out in the sun, but I think there are better options than mainstream chemical sunscreens with oxybenzone, avobenzone, ecamsil, and octocrylene, which are probable likely endocrine disruptors. So there are mineral sunscreens. Probably non-nano zinc oxide sunscreens are the best option for most people, but also covering up. I feel like the reason sunscreen might be a trigger point because there's just a lot of sun fearing these days. And there are well known, probably very well intentioned influencers now coming out straight, in our faces and saying the sun is harmful in every way, shape, or form. A tan is not healthy. And dermatologists have kind of been saying this for a long time. There's no such thing as a healthy tan. I don't understand this from an evolutionary, historical, anthropologic perspective. Humans have been in the sun almost, I mean, I think most animals have a sense of when they've gotten too much sun. This is just intrinsic to life on the earth. Most of us crave the sun.
Well, you can't produce vitamin D naturally without sunshine, nor can you produce, it turns out, melatonin.
Exactly. And no one is really talking about the importance of sunlight for melatonin. We can supplement with melatonin and we can supplement with vitamin D, but questions remain about whether that's the same as being in the sun. Circadian rhythms are important to have the sun in your life. I mean, to have the sun in your eyes in the morning, that's very important for programming your circadian rhythm. When I lived in Seattle, I was a resident at the University of Washington after medical school, and I can tell you that the sun feels really, really good as a human after a Seattle winter. We know that endorphins are produced when you go out in the sun, so these are the feel-good chemicals in our bodies, suggestive of some sort of evolutionary mechanism that spurs us as humans to crave the sun in reasonable amounts. Nitric oxide is also produced in the skin when we're in ultraviolet sunlight with the full spectrum of visible light and other lights, other light, wavelengths. But and nitric oxide is important for vasodilatation. There have been studies in humans showing that blood pressure is reduced when we go out in the sun, and yet I mean, dermatology, mainstream dermatology, for years has been saying stay out of the sun, full stop. And you just think, where have we lost? Like, what's the disconnect here? It's crazy.
Well, and it's why the geoengineering has been able to persist without much concern related to human health, because it's already been laid foundationally that the sun is not necessary for human wellness, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We need direct sunlight. Um, a good number of hours of the day. I mean, what is your suggestion? Is it 2 hours at least? And is it mostly morning sunlight?
It probably depends on skin tone at base, where you are in the world, and the season. So I live at the equator. Half of my heritage is from Sicily, so I have Mediterranean heritage. I tend to get kind of dark when I go in the sun, but I think it depends. There's a great app called D-Minder, and there's a few others out there that people can find where you can actually calculate how much vitamin D is made based on your skin tone, the latitude, and the place in the world at that time of year. And you can see how much vitamin D you're actually making in your skin. Most vitamin D supplements are 2 to 5,000 IUs. It takes a good amount of time for most people to make 2 to 5,000 IUs of vitamin D in their skin when you're in the sunlight. So I think that if people are pale, less sunlight is necessary, and morning sunlight is better because there's less UVA and UVB, or no UVA and UVB, depending on the actual time of day. But there are visible wavelengths, there's circadian rhythm programming. You can get some grounding if you take your shoes off and go in the sun. But I think I mentioned this earlier, but I think most of us as humans have an intrinsic sense of when we've gotten enough sun. If you are sitting indoors and the sun looks delicious. It just looks like something that you want to go into, and you go into the sun and it feels heavenly. Your body probably needs that sunlight. And obviously, do what you can to moderate your sun exposure. Try not to get sunburn. That's not a good thing for humans, but there's a reason that we crave the sun. It just depends on an individual basis where we are. And we can use other metrics like lab based metrics, checking things like 25 hydroxy vitamin D, to get a sense of how much sun you need based on your vitamin D level as one metric if you're not supplementing with vitamin D. But, a lot of people live in
And
places with
vitamin D isn't exactly a vitamin, right? It
hormone.
we call it a vitamin, but it's actually a hormone.
Yeah, it has roles all over the human body. It affects genetics, it affects which genes are turned on and off. It's a hugely valuable hormone for us. And we make it in the sun. We can supplement with it. I think questions remain, like I said, of whether it's the same if we supplement versus the sun. But yeah, vitamin D is critically important. And I think that intuitively, most people understand, unless they've been totally programmed by the anti sun establishment, most people understand that going in the sun feels good. And it's probably a positive thing for us.